video is a night owl themselves. So, these stories are probably going to convert you into being a morning person. As always, before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. And if you have your own spooky, scary Reddit type story that you would like for me to read in a future video and you would like to share with me, make sure to email this email right here, which is also available in the description down below. The story does not have to be your own. The story could be fiction, completely fiction that you made up. You just gotta let me know the details. And lastly, if you guys are loving the content and you want to show some support and you're feeling generous, here's my tip jar information. It's also available in the description down below. Anything is appreciated. I love you guys. Okay? That is enough about me. Let's get into these stories. My partner works overnight, so I'm up during the night often. My experiences include a group of teenage girls just sitting in our backyard and watching a toddler play in the street alone around 3 a.m. I called the police. The toddler was safely taken home. My creepier experiences actually occurred more around 5 to 6 a.m. with the sun up, when you'd think people would be a little less willing to be creepy. Once around 5:30 I felt watched, glanced up, and saw a man peeking through the gap in our blinds. He bolted away. Another time my partner told me he'd be home in under 5 minutes, so I unlocked our front door. A man was in the process of crossing the street, looked up and grinned at me, like I had opened up just for him. He made a beeline for our house, and I slammed and locked the door so fast. Definitely a different man than Blind Peeker. Also, forgot once around 3 a.m. our power went out for like 20 seconds, and the sky lit up so bright as day, and flashed all colors of the rainbow. I thought I had imagined that, but I heard someone down the street scream, "What the fuck?" I assumed a transformer blew somewhere or something. I can't figure out another explanation. The next story says, I was up late playing video games in the house alone around 3 a.m. My dad was working the late shift and came home in the morning, but sometimes he'd come home for a lunch break halfway through the night, grab a quick bite, and head back out. I heard the front door unlocking, open up, and someone step into the house. I paused the game, and I yelled down the hall, "Hey, Dad." He always responded. This time he didn't. I yelled down the hall again, "Dad, is that you?" No response. My heart sunk into my stomach, and I was frozen in fear. I sat there for a few seconds and then stood up. I slowly walked down the hall to the front door. The door was locked, deadbolt and all. I flipped on all the lights and started searching everywhere in the house, scared to death someone came in and was hiding in my house. But I couldn't find anyone. In the morning, I asked my dad if he came home, but turned around and immediately left. But he said he brought lunch with him that night and didn't come home to eat. I still think about that night over 10 years later. I can't explain what happened. I heard the lock, the door, and someone come into the house as clear as crystals. But no one came in. I can't explain it. Of course, this has 666 upvotes. Yikes. Somebody commented and was like, in our last house, my art studio was above the front door/garage, but I couldn't see the entrance of either from the window. However, I could hear the garage and the front doors being opened. Once I was working, and about the time my husband should have been home, I heard the garage door. Then a couple of minutes later, the front door. Then the very distinct sound of him dropping his backpack and hanging his keys. Decided immediately to go downstairs to greet him and grab a snack. Went down to an empty house. No husband, no bag, no keys. Door As I was looking around for him, I got a text from him saying he had to stay at work late. I even momentarily wondered if our bird had mimicked the noise, but he was in the studio with me, and the sound definitely came from below. Never figured it out. Another person commented, I had a similar experience. I was in bed and my husband was on staff duty overnight. It wasn't uncommon for him to occasionally come home for 30-minute snooze because we lived very close by. I saw him come into our room and strip down to his socks and shirt. He got into bed next to me and was silent with his eyes closed for a few minutes. Then he got up and said he thought he could fall asleep but couldn't, so he got dressed and left. In the morning, I mentioned something about him coming home, and he swears to me he never came home. I know what I saw, heard, and felt. No. The next story says, drifted a bit on the couch in the den with my head on the couch armrest. I woke up when I felt the tiniest little paw tentatively reaching out and putting weight on my head. For some reason, I didn't jerk away. Then a second paw started reaching into my hair. I slowly sat up to look at what was going on. A large brown rat had found its way into the house, up the couch, and was gently climbing onto my head. I coaxed him down to the couch, and he didn't run away. I just have a rat calmly looking at me from the armrest of the couch. Eventually, I got him into a box and released him into a field. Weird way to get a little friend at 2 a.m. He was tugging on his hair to fulfill his dreams of becoming a chef. The next Redditor says, someone tried to open the front door of the house that I'm staying at. It was around 2 to 3 a.m. and sometimes people in the house forget to lock. Safe to say, I could not sleep the whole night. The next story says, as many of us were back then, I was gaming. The first Modern Warfare 2 had dropped recently, and I had an entire wrestling team of friends with Xboxes. Great fun. 1 a.m. rolls around, the summer night air wafting in through both open windows. In between bites of pizza rolls, now I want pizza rolls. Knew I should have bought some yesterday at the grocery store. I contemplated it, and that's just confirmed it. In between bites of pizza rolls that I should have bought myself, and our UAV is online. I swear I hear someone say, help me. Freaks you out a bit if you're completely unsure and that particular phrase isn't uttered often. I pause and listen, taking off one side of my turtle beaches. A good half-minute passes. Nothing. I tell my friends about it. They roast me, telling me I'm imagining it. I shrug it off. Again, I swear I think I heard someone distinctively say, help me. I fully take off my headset and wait. Sooner this time, and sure enough, there it is. A third time, and I hear it clearly. A voice I do not recognize. Can someone help me? Bone-chilling desperation in their voice. The bottom level of the house which I'm playing in is below grade, with the windows maybe a foot above the soil outside. Below the deck, I am 3 feet from that window, feeling my teenage soul leave my body in fear. I run upstairs in a panic and inform my parents. Dressed in bedwear and armed with an airsoft gun, we investigate. An elderly woman with dementia got lost a few hours before and had wandered into our backyard, fell, and became delirious. We called the police and she was taken to the hospital, confused and unarmed. Glad to have helped her that day, also glad to prove my entire team wrong. Felt nice. The next story. I had the worst insomnia during the COVID lockdown. Every night around 2 to 3, a red truck would park in my driveway and just sit there. The guy would chat on the phone and leave. My house's driveway is not easy to access, making it unusual for someone to just park there. insomnia, paranoia, and sheer weirdness of this, I caved and bought a Ring camera and downloaded the Nextdoor app. Found out he was a newspaper deliverer, but we never got paper deliveries, and I never saw him leave the car. Super weird. The next story, I was sitting up playing Xbox at like 3 a.m. and some guy kicked in my front door. As I'm windmilling, falling backwards out of my chair, I sit in a computer chair while I game. I see my 100-pound black lab fly through the house, jump and knock this guy back through the doorway. My dog was straight eating this guy. The intruder, he's screaming like he's being fed, feet first, to a wood chipper. I finally run to the door and see this guy sprinting down the street and my dog hot on his heels. I call the cops and they show up. I give them the report, and about 20 minutes into it, my dog comes sauntering up like he's the best thing since individually wrapped cheese slices. The cops were like, "Is he friendly?" To which I remember saying something to the effect of, "I thought he was." My dog was, and is, the biggest ham of a lab, all cuddles and kisses, until you kick in my door at 3 a.m. Good boy. I, a female, used to clean movie theaters. Our shifts would start at 2 a.m. On a slow weekday night, I decided to go out and pick up the trash in the parking lot around 4 to 5 a.m. The theater was also next to a super busy road, so people passing by could see into the parking lot as clear as day. I had headphones in and a grabby thing in my hand to pick up gross stuff when I suddenly get a call from my boss who was inside the building. She tells me she just saw a truck pull into the parking lot on the opposite side of where I was, and we weren't expecting any vendors today. As she says this, the truck pulls up next to me and stops as a man starts to open his door. There was a clear moment when he started to lean out and then saw that I was on a phone call. I had my screen facing him because I was talking to my boss through the headphones, and the grabby thing over my shoulder like a baseball bat. He sees my hands and then looks up at me and says, "Looks like it might snow today," then closes his door and drives off. I'm 100% sure if my boss didn't call me, that man would have tried to grab me into his truck. I then warned everyone that no one should do parking lot garbage until it's light out, and to always be on alert. Oh, very creepy. I'm glad this person is okay. Oh, Clay. I'm so shook, but okay. I meant to say okay. When I was 11, I couldn't sleep one night because I was sick. I heard something at my bedroom window. I ran out of my room to wake up my mom. She told me to stop being paranoid and to go back to bed. Instead, I went to the back door and turned on the porch light that was on the same wall as my bedroom window. Next day, I went outside to check my window, and there were 2 boot tracks just below my window. I was up late, screwing around on the internet as usual. Everyone else was in bed, and something was clattering out on the deck. I ignored the noises at first. I figured it was just the wind rattling the trash can lid I'd hung on the bird feeder to inconvenience the squirrels. But the racket kept going, and my mind started to wander. Might be a raccoon, I thought. Maybe it crawled into the barbecue looking for food scraps. Maybe there are 2 of them in there trying to make more raccoons. The noise continued. I stood up, walked over to the sliding door, and turned on the outside lights. They were the CFL bulbs that take a week to warm up, so I couldn't see much. And what I could see looked normal. Whatever was making the noise kept doing whatever it was doing. By this point, I was getting nervous. I was annoyed that I was nervous, and I was annoyed that some pissant trash panda was making me nervous. So I opened the door, stuck my head out, and asked, "Can I help you?" A bear stared back from 10, maybe 20 feet away. It was standing on its back legs, making it as tall as I was. Its front paws gripped the bird feeder, which which, despite the bear's best efforts, remained connected to the house. I stood there for a few seconds until my brain's pattern recognition software decided that, yep, that's a bear all right, and then I ducked back inside. When I looked back, the bear was gone, leaving behind a damaged bird feeder with a smashed trash can lid on top. We don't hang bird feeders anymore. This next story is short and sweet. Or not sweet at all. I looked out my window, and a man was looking through it at the same time. The next story. I woke up shortly before the North Ridge earthquake outside of LA in the 90s. I was just lying there in the middle of the night staring at the ceiling and then heard a loud whistling sound, like a teapot boiling, that started getting fainter, and the ground started shaking violently. I thought a bomb had gone off initially. No, just an earthquake. The next story. I've posted this before, but it's one of my favorite stories. When I was a new mom, shortly after my grandmother had died, we visited her rural lake cottage several states away. It was a small 2-story structure with the bedrooms being situated on the second floor. My son was only about 4 to 6 weeks old, so I was worried that he would keep my other family members awake at night and was needing to be fed and being new to the world, etc. Well, the inevitable happened, and my son would not stop fussing in the middle of the night. I decided to go outside with the little guy to get a bit of fresh air. The cottage had burned down to the chimney a couple years earlier, and the house had been rebuilt, so I wasn't familiar with its new tits and bits. I went outside, and apparently the door was unlocked from the inside, but the outside lock was engaged. Now here I am in the middle of pretty much nowhere, locked out of the house at 3 a.m. with a newborn. I knocked on and tried the door again and again, and could not get it open. I even threw pebbles and then rocks at my husband's window, but to no avail. As I sat outside the door, my back leaning against it, about to lose it completely, I heard a click. The door was unlocked. The door that I had tried dozens and dozens and dozens of times to open simply unlocked. Everyone's still soundly asleep and didn't recall hearing any noises at all in the morning. The door had a window and I could see the entirety of the bottom floor through it. No one was there, but it unlocked for me. I'd be like, thanks, Grandma, and keep it pushing. The next person says, ran into a burglar exiting my room. My mom had left the balcony door open and fell asleep. Not only is this creepy, but it sounds a bit awkward. I was smoking out the back window of the ground floor flat, and someone came around the corner with a torch, then quickly left. This was at like 2 a.m. It was a private pathway, and there's absolutely no reason why anyone would come around here. Didn't get a good look at them, and couldn't see anyone out front when I went to check. The next story says, this is more scary than it is creepy. We rented a cabin in northern Michigan. It had a pretty nice screened-in porch. The bottom part of it was permanent glass, though. I was just laying there watching the stars roll by, kind of drifting in and out of sleep. Eventually, I decided it's time to go to bed and get some proper sleep, and I knocked over a beer bottle as I stood up. It made a loud noise, and this screaming noise came from just outside the porch, along with 3 very fast knocks on the glass. I freaked out, darted inside, and flipped on the lights. Nothing by the window, but off about 30 feet into the yard was a freaking mountain lion staring back at me with these white, yellow eyes. Pretty sure it had settled against the house for the night, and I freaked it out when I got up and swiped the glass in defense. In that moment of the dark, I was quite sure it was possessed, or a possessed spirit. This next story says, I work shifts and sometimes I stay up late at night. One night I heard someone downstairs call my name. Not loud, but loud enough for me to react to it. Our bedroom is on the same floor I was, so I knew it wasn't my wife. It freaked me out because our dog reacted to it, special while we're downstairs either. Doors and windows were all locked. Then my blood freezes as I hear my name again. This time it was upstairs. The same floor as my wife sleeps. I can't say if the dog noticed because I ran up those stairs as if everything was on fire, and still nothing. No one else in the house except me and my wife sleeping, and my dog, who at this point didn't understand why I was stressed out to the max, freaked me the hell out. This is going to be the last story because my phone is threatening to die. So, I was in the living room and my grandfather and grandmother and my son were cuddling watching a movie, and had fell asleep on the living room floor. I cuddled up with my son and was laying there just trying to get some sleep. I shut my eyes for a second, but then felt this horrible feeling that someone or something else was with me. I was so afraid I dare not even to breathe. But when I opened my eyes, I saw what looked like a man, but not clearly was not, hunched over my grandfather's face and looked to be sucking it. It had a long neck similar to the neck of a dinosaur. I could not see a face. The area where its neck met its shoulders looked to be human, very square shoulders that were covered by a trench coat and a lot of layers. I was so terribly afraid that I told myself, "You are dreaming. Go back to sleep." I threw the covers over my face and eventually went back to sleep. Next morning I woke up and had forgotten all about it, until I noticed everyone was sitting on the table trying to eat breakfast, and I asked, "What's wrong?" My grandmother told me that grandfather had passed away in his sleep last night. I never told anyone what I saw. Okay, we're done. I'm cutting y'all off for the night. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. And if you have your own Reddit story that you would like to share with me to read in a future video, it does not have to be your own, make sure to email this email right here, which is also available in the description down below, as well as